Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we do many different kind of art tutorials now. We can't just say watercolor, I feel.
We are very diversified.
Yes, we are. But I personally teach watercolor, so I am doing this watercolor project, The Holiday Buck.
I want to do a quick Christmas jingle, but I can't. All I can think of is the McDonald's jingle.
That could be Christmassy.
Yeah, that's Christmassy.
I think of McDonald's for Christmas.
I really like Christmas trees.
So, for this project, we are using 2 paintbrushes, a round 6 and a round 2. Our go-to brushes, they're our friends. They're really high quality. They're Princeton Heritage Series. You can find them on our website. The colors we are using in this project today are quite a few, actually. Black and sepia and dandelion yellow and magenta and azure blue. Now we are mostly using the brown and the black for the buck, and then these colors will be used for the Christmas lights or holiday lights.
You know, it was just about a year ago, a little over a year now, that I started with the videos, and azure blue is a vivid memory because no one knew how to pronounce it.
No one knew how to pronounce it.
Azure?
I'm like, azure? Azure? Yeah, and then we remember because Asher makes our paint. Yes. That's his name, and so I'm like, Azure rhymes with Asher. Okay, I can do this.
That's a great way to remember it.
So, anyways, let me see how many steps we have for this. We have 5 steps. So our very first step is we are going to put the brown on the head and the ears. Second step, we are going to do the antlers. Third step, we are going to do eyes and nose, surrounding areas. Fourth step, we will do the neck, and the 5th step is the string of lights. Do I sometimes throw in extra steps in there if I missed something? Yes.
Very much so. Also, tips that you could have used at the beginning of the project.
Things that you should have known at the beginning,
yeah.
I tend to tell you at the end.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
But you're welcome.
But you're welcome anyway. Okay. Now we're going to do our outline, and then we'll do our oath and warm-ups and start painting. So here is the outline. If you get it in this kit, and this is not part of the subscription box, this is a bonus kit. So you can either get this outline for free on our website, or you can purchase the kit that comes with all the paints and instructions. And you're gonna tape it to your watercolor paper. You're gonna put your graphite paper shiny, dark side down. Okay. And then
I think there's an art movie pending called The Dark Side of the Graphite Paper. And I feel like it's ominous. Makes me think of Transformers, Dark Side of the Moon.
Producer and director is Keenan.
Yes.
Look out for that.
Could be bobbleheads involved, who knows?
Okay, and then whatever mark you make on your paper, it will transfer onto your watercolor paper. Now, I'm going to do my outline dark so you guys can see what I'm doing. Please try and make your outline as light as possible because watercolor is transparent. Oh my gosh, this just reminded me, I totally had a dream last night where someone was mad because I kept on saying the same information on all the tutorials or something. I don't know. And it was like a nightmare because I'm like reading all these comments where it's like, we get how to use graphite paper. I'm like, I'm sorry.
So sorry, you asked how to use it.
I'm sorry, just trying to share my information with you.
It's always great when you start dreaming about work.
That's when you know things are going really well.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I haven't slept in weeks.
Black Friday is in 2 days.
It's like when my first official job at a Wendy's, the first night I had dreams about bagging food wrong. Oh, it was the worst. People were getting the wrong sandwiches. They were coming back and throwing their drinks at me.
And people care about their Wendy's.
I know.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
too.
threw a drink at you. because it's
I had a
like,
guy
I want
rip
a spicy chicken sandwich. Don't you dare give me anything else, you know?
Which is my favorite sandwich.
It's so good.
With ranch. I did actually physically have a man rip a bag out of my hand in the drive-thru once.
Really?
And then he threatened to pull me through the window if I didn't give him a handful of ketchup.
Did you give up?
Oh yeah.
Did you just squirt it in his hands?
No, I should have.
You should have.
That
You're like,
would've been so
no
great.
problem.
Pull me through the window now. I was much smaller than I am now, so I didn't want to fight anybody.
It's fine, just outlining.
Well, needless to say, that guy didn't come back to Wendy's.
Why was he so angry? Did you get his order wrong?
Oh, no. I was put in the drive-thru because the person before me had punched the wall due to frustration and how busy we were.
Oh.
She broke her wrist. But when I took over, there were 13 tickets waiting to be filled and 6 or 7 already that have been like ordered. Does that make sense? I don't know how to explain it otherwise. It was very busy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He was very upset. He'd probably been in line for like 15 or 20 minutes. And that's an eternity in a drive-thru.
That really is a long time.
Ugh.
And I will say that, was it the Cameron?
Yes, it was.
That is the busiest Wendy's I have ever seen.
Well, it's because they're at the crossroads of 35 and 36. So they always have people coming from out of town just stopping by to grab some grub.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Okay, outline complete. Good job. I was looking at this nose area on the outline and I was like, that looks really funky, but it's okay. I'll help you guys get through it. It's gonna be okay. So let's do our oath. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. Okay.
I always mute myself when we do the oath because I know that I get loud.
Oh, because then you can just hear it
Yeah.
off my mic?
Yeah, because I'm generally yelling.
You are yelling,
Yeah.
at least at that last part.
That's my favorite part, though, to have fun.
It's the best part. Probably the most important part, I would say.
I think if you can have fun, it's like the base. If you can have fun doing what you want to do, like this, then you will not judge yourself, and you will be kind to yourself.
You know,
or
that's
judge
true.
others.
That's true.
Yeah, just let go and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Touche, Keenan.
Thank you. I've gotten incredibly good at basketball recently because I just have had more fun than been aggressive.
You just decided to
just
calm
will-
down a little bit.
I just calmed
and
down.
decided your
I've
worth
been
is not
dunking on
defined by
8-year-olds
your...
all week.
Aren't you only playing with your daughter Eleanor, who's 4?
She's 4. I lied about the age.
Okay, we got to do our warm-ups.
After a brief intermission, we're back.
We're back. After me and Keenan just laughed for about 5 minutes over nothing. We're back. It's fine. Okay, so just 2 things that I'm going to talk about. One of them I talk about probably every time, which is value change, because it's super important. Value is all about the lightness and darkness of a color. It's very important to have a range of values when you're painting anything with form. That's how we communicate shapes of things. And if you look at the difference between a circle and a sphere, the only difference is a value change on them. But the sphere is 3-dimensional, circle is totally flat, 2-dimensional. So that's why values are important to kind of start to notice and then include in your work. So if you just fill your paintbrush with paint and paint with that, that is a dark value. And then every time you add a little bit of water to your paintbrush, the value will lighten. And so you want to make sure, especially with watercolor, you might think that these 2 values are too light, but I'm here to tell you that they are necessary and important. So you might be sticking in this range for the whole thing, and if you really want your buck to have form, you need to have all of them. And what I like to do as a little trick for me is I will start with a dark value, and then when I'm spreading color across something, I'll just add water to it So I will have a natural value transition that's smooth. But another thing that you can do is called wet on dry, which is the second technique I'm going to show you. And that is a great way for layering. So traditionally, I will say that watercolorists usually do lots of layers, starting with the lightest layer first, and then they just layer the different values on top. I don't always paint that way, actually, but it's a really great way to build form. So if that's something that you guys want to try instead of how I do it, there is nothing wrong with doing it the way you guys want to do it, or how the other people do it. But traditionally, that is how watercolor is done. I just play by my own rules, you know what I mean? I'm a little bit hardcore.
We make our own rules here.
I'm like, you can't tell me how to paint watercolor. I'm going to do it my own way.
Movie pending. Watercolorist goes crazy.
Living on the edge.
Living on the edge. In theaters near you.
Okay, so basically wet on dry is when you've already put paint down and it has dry and you just do another layer on top of it. So like if I wanted to do another layer of the sepia on top of the sepia, I would just paint directly onto it and let it dry. That's it. But we do that actually a little bit in this tutorial, so.
I'm already excited.
It's great. It's really great. All right. Now we're going to start with step one. We're going to add the brown to our buck. And I just want to point out a few areas. You'll notice that the top of the nose here is a light value, that on the sides here, it's a darker value, and around the eyes, and the top of the head is more of a medium value. That is how we communicate that the bone structure of this deer, this is coming out at us, so it's a lighter value. The side of the head is going away and is not directly in the light, so it's shadowed, all of that fun stuff. So that's why we do what we do.
Would you ever consider painting a Klingon from Star Trek?
I don't know what they look like.
I will find pictures.
Am I so sad that I don't know what a Klingon looks like?
No, I'm not that sad. I'm not.
Taylor, do you know what a Klingon looks like? Okay. Alexis, do you know what a Klingon looks like?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, 2 and 2. All right, that's not that bad.
That's okay. I'll Google it for you. It's fine. Klingon. It's a race out in the galactic void on a planet. They're a war-mongering race.
And you said Star Trek?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. I don't get Star Trek and Star Wars confused or anything. I would paint a Klingon, but we probably couldn't sell a kit to paint a Klingon since that's owned by Star Trek.
I'll call Star Trek.
Okay, yeah, call Star Trek, see if we
will.
can paint a Klingon.
I'll call Jean-Luc Picard.
Perfect. Okay, we will start painting eventually.
We're 14 minutes in and we haven't started the project.
We haven't even started painting. Okay, and I would like to say too that the wonderful thing about these 3 colors that I added for our light bulbs is they also can be used to help mix the browns. So let's say, for example, you wanted this brown to be more yellow. Well, just grab some more yellow. Or maybe you're just like, man, this brown seems like super red. I just can't, all I see is like a red brown. You can mix a little bit of green and throw that in with your brown, and that will neutralize it, neutralize the red, because green and red are complementary colors. So feel free to play with the different colors of brown, or you can just use the sepia straight out. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I got some brown, and I'm just going to start filling in the head. Now I put paint on the top, and then I'm going to rinse my brush, hit it off the side of the cup so it's not dripping, and just use mostly water and the color that I already laid down to paint the nose. So I want to make sure this is a light value. Now, if you accidentally paint it too dark, let's say like you just went in hot and you're like, oh shoot, that's so dark. You can lift color. Just rinse your brush, hit it off the side of the cup. So using just a damp brush, lift, wipe it on your paper towel, lift again, wipe. It won't erase it completely, but it will lighten the values. So it's not the end of the world if you make mistakes. Okay. And then I'm just going to keep going with my brown. And I have kind of outlines here of where I did the darker value on the side of the face. But I'm going to give that a second to dry before I darken it. Okay, and I'm going to work on the ears. Did you find a picture of a Klingon?
Taylor did.
What does that look like? Tell me when you're ready, Taylor. Sorry, Taylor. I know that you're trying to work, but this is really important.
Taylor, this was important. I can't believe you closed it. There you go, Sarah.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that would be interesting, all the different ridges.
All the ridges on his head.
Yeah, yeah. That would be good. Okay, so I painted the outside of the ear brown, and then to give it an extra little touch, I'm going to do a little bit of a darker value right at the tip of the ear, because usually on buck's ears, the tip of the ear is darker than the rest of it. Okay. And then I'm going to paint the other ear.
This buck made me think of reindeer, because why would it not? It 'tis the season. And we watched the movie Noel on Netflix, which reindeer made me think of the movie.
I don't know if I've even heard of that.
Clever. No, it's on Disney Plus, I'm sorry. But it's clever and adorable.
Have you seen the new Netflix movie called Klaus?
No.
It's an animation.
Is it good?
It's so good.
Okay.
It's really cute.
I'll watch that, maybe tonight.
I just watched it with my girls and I loved it. Okay, so I'm going to now put in the darker values on my buck. So I'm going to grab some more brown. And then kind of on the side of the face here where I kind of have it outlined is where I'm going to start putting in the darker values. Now, a little thing that I like to do, because the problem with these outlines sometimes is that we treat them kind of like coloring books, and we leave the spaces really separated, and then it feels kind of blocky, and I don't want that. I want there to be smooth transitions. So after I put in a dark value, usually I like to rinse my brush, and just using a damp brush, I just go along the edge and just kind of smooth it out and try and make that transition line like almost transition to the next lighter value instead of having it be so like dark light. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And if you need to add a little black into your brown, if you want to make it really dark, you can. Don't do too much though, because then it will be like a gray. And I mean, maybe this buck is old. I guess he could have some gray fur happening, you know? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know how they age. I assume it's gray.
I mean, I would think it would turn gray once they started to get old.
Right.
But I actually, I don't know a lot about bucks.
I know nothing.
Put a little bit of a darker value kind of behind the eye here. There. And now you can see that our buck's head is kind of starting to take form a little bit, take shape. We're going to let that dry for a second. And I would like to say that with watercolor, it's really good to like work on a section, move on to another section, and then come back to it, because if you just stay in one section for too long, then you're like overworking it, and then you're overthinking it, and you can't see it very well, and all of the different things. So it's good to kind of go from one place to the next. Okay, so we're gonna do our antlers. Now for step 2. Okay, and for my antlers, I just kind of want them to be a different color than the hair on my deer. So it doesn't really matter what color you go with, but looking at antlers, I feel like they're kind of like a cream color tan, a little bit desaturated, but not just black and white. You know what I mean?
A little darker than a flesh.
Yeah, so I'll grab a little bit of my sepia, I'll grab a little bit of my black and mix that together and kind of see what that looks like. Actually, I think that's a pretty good color. And that's different enough from the fur, the brown fur, that it won't just blend together. So I'm going to start filling that in. And again, hopefully your antlers are a little bit, your lines are lighter than mine. And then you can use water to kind of spread it out. And then one thing I did, I used a little bit of a wet on wet technique, and I'm sorry I didn't do this in the warm-ups, but wet on wet is when you just drop in color when the area is wet. So I'm gonna grab some and just kind of start to drop it in. And that's because if you look at antlers, there's an unevenness to the color. There are some darker parts and some lighter parts. So I'm just trying to just mimic that a little bit. We're not going crazy with detail, but just a little hint.
I'm obviously not very familiar with deers, but I think the dark parts are actually the real rough, like, I don't know what they're called, just rough parts of the antler. Because the antler isn't smooth generally.
No, it has like
sharp ridges almost.
Ridges,
yeah.
A little bit. I mean, they're not super, how do I say this? They're not as strong or as deep as like ridges on a cactus, but they're a shallow ridge.
Yeah.
So it's just a slight little bump.
Right.
Okay, and then I'm going to do the other side. Do some little drops for texture in there. And they'll kind of diffuse out. If they're not blending out as much as you want them to, you can help them and just be like, come on, little guy, you're too strong. Let's chill you out a bit. Okay, and I'm just going to do kind of an extra darker value along this kind of ridge right here to show that this antler, not only does it like come up, but it also comes kind of around to the front. Oh, I smeared. Okay. Okay, so when you smear, don't freak out. Get clean water, put it over the smeared area as quickly as you can. Take a clean paper towel and just pick up. It won't erase it completely, but it's like barely noticeable now. So as long as you work quickly, usually you can cover just about everything up. Also, if you have a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, rip off a tiny little piece, make sure it's clean, dip it in clean water, squeeze out the excess water, and rub. Do not rub vigorously because you will rub a hole in your paper. So it's a soft rub, and it should take off that color.
Little known fact.
Great tool.
Holes in paper don't let the paint sit. So, yeah.
Are you sure
Paint will
about
just
that?
go right through.
Are you sure about that?
That's what I read.
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. I haven't been watercoloring that long.
Polishpaint.com.
Okay. What's our next step? Let me look. We're moving on to step 3. We are doing the eyes and the nose. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my round 2 because I'm working in a smaller area. I've been using a round 6 the whole time. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is around the eyeball, there's like a dark brown here. So I'm going to put that in first. So I'm going to grab some brown, and I have it outlined on your sheet. Okay, and we're going to let that sit and dry for a moment before we put in the black part. I'm going to move to the nose and using just black. So these are the nostrils here, these holes on the side. And we want to make sure that the innermost part of it is the darkest part, because that's actually where it's, we've talked about nostrils quite a few times, but the innermost part is where that hole is the deepest. So it's the same if you look at your ear, where like there's a part in that hole that's going to be a darker value than when it's transitioning out of the hole. Does that make sense?
Yes, similar to how the first cut is always the deepest. You know.
That's exactly what it's like. Okay, we're fine. We're totally fine. So I'm going to leave that for a second, only putting black on the innermost part. And then I'm going to do black kind of down here on this little loop-de-loop down here on the bottom part. And now I'm going to start kind of blending and transitioning. So the black that I just put down on the front of the nose, I'm going to kind of smear it. We want the darkest value to be the bottom part, and then like kind of a light gray near the top. And this actually goes all the way down, like so. And then there will be a little bit of an edge between the nostrils and the nose. Now this edge is too thick. We need to make it like a barely there thin line. But they are two different planes, the same way that the tip of your nose is on a different plane than where your nostrils are back here. Does it?
Sarah, if you need to blow your nose, we have tissue.
I know you have footage of me picking my nose.
100%.
Okay, and then I'm just going to blend out the actual nostril area and let that transition out. So again, I'm just using the color that's already there in a damp brush, and that's allowing me to get a lighter value. Now, if for whatever reason something happened and it's all evening out to one value and you're getting super frustrated, first off, take a breath. Take a breath. Yes. If it's really wet, pat it with your paper towel, let the area dry, come back to it, okay? Because sometimes when we're working in such small areas and we're using water to blend out, we can get too much water, which then makes everything even and all of that stuff, and it gets really frustrating. So just like take a breath, dry it, let it dry, come back to it. Okay? And now I'm going to do the eyeball part. So, again, using just black, I'm going to start to fill in. Now, I left a glare where that hole is, where that white dot is, but I would like to say too that leave a really thin white line along the outer edge of the eye as well, if you can. If you end up covering it, it's not a huge deal. We also don't want it to be too big, because if that white edge is too big, it will seem like the whites of their eyes, and that's not what we're trying to go for. We're trying to show that there's another glare on there. So that's why I didn't include it in the outline, because if I put it there, it would have been too big and it would have made it look like the deer was doing this. Yeah. So even that looks a little bit I don't know, let me paint the other one and then we'll see. Because I might just paint over it if it's not communicating what I want it to. Okay, and we're just gonna let that dry for a second because we're gonna blend out some things and smear some things around, but we don't wanna do it while the black is wet. So while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm gonna put in the brown on top of the nose, kind of like this little trail thing that's going on, like so. I might darken, I'm going to darken some of these shadows again, just doing another layer. That. And then, even though the white area around the eye is white, it's not pure white, it's not paper white. So I'm going to smear a little bit of the brown color that I have around there to put a slight shadow and shape on it so then it doesn't just seem too flat. So I'm going to kind of just blend up a little bit. Again, we just want to make sure it's a barely there color. And I'm kind of going to blend around. And I touched my black accidentally, but that's okay. So it bled out a little bit, and I'm just going to lift up that black with the damp paintbrush. It's not the end of the world. And then that's going to come up a little bit and blend this out a little bit. And behind the eye too. Be careful to avoid the black. Okay. Let's put a little shadow on the bottom lip here. Just a tiny little thing. Again, that's white, but it's not paper white. Okay, my eyes are still wet, so I'm gonna work on the ears, which is funny because I didn't put when we're gonna put the pink part on the ears in my steps. So this is one of those times where I just throw a little step in there.
Step 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Hey, you choose.
So I'm gonna grab a little bit of the magenta and mix it with my brown. And starting kind of where I have these slashes, the innermost part, I'm going to put that kind of pinky color there. Now the reason why I mix it with brown is to tone down the color, because magenta is a very vibrant, strong pink. And even though it is pink inside the ear, it's not like hot pink, you know? And I'm going to leave a little bit of white space kind of around this pinky area because there's white fur. So I'm just going to avoid painting around that. You can even mix black in with your magenta, and that will give it like a dark purpley color, which can also be used. Okay. Okay, I'm going to still leave the eyes for a little bit. We're going to go to the neck, and the neck is fairly straightforward. Grab your round 6 and grab your browns, whatever browns you decided to use for the coloring of your buck. And it's going to be a darker value right where it's meeting the head. On both sides. And then just use some water to spread it out. And they have a little white patch right underneath their neck. Okay. I like this like yellowy brown I just got by mixing some brown in there, so I'm kind of gonna put it on the face too, just a little bit, just so it matches with the neck. Okay, let's do the string of lights, and then I'm going to finish up some details on the eyeballs, which is essentially the lashes. Eyelashes are very, very difficult to paint. You have to get a super, super thin line, thin wispy lines. So if you're not there yet, that's okay. For the string, I'm going to use my round 2. Pick up some black paint, and then to make sure that it's really thin, like my line is thin, after I pick up the amount of water and black paint I want, I'm actually going to smush my paintbrush on either side on my palette, so then it kind of sandwiches the bristles together to make a point. And if you actually want to sketch out your line, since I didn't include that in the outline, you can. So I'm just going to have it kind of work its way back and forth. And the reason why I didn't sketch it out is because I wanted to give you guys room to play. So maybe you write Merry Christmas here in ornaments or something like that. Like,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, wouldn't that be?
That would be awesome.
So whatever you want, but I'll just kind of sketch mine out. So I'm going to start kind of at the top here. And then it works its way around the antler. So it goes in front and then it goes behind. Like that. Okay. And then I'm going to take my smushed bristles and just kind of vertical hold, really light pressure. I'm going to follow this line. And if your bristles lift a little bit, I just leave it. So you see I have some dotting there and some spaces where that paint wasn't touching. Not a big deal. Me trying to go back in and fill in those spaces will make my line really uneven, and then in turn I would have to make it thicker, and I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to leave them and be okay that it's not a solid line. Okay. Okay, then I'm going back here. Okay, and last little bit, like that. All right, and now we can do the little Christmas light bulbs. So we have yellow and azure blue and magenta, which are great colors for mixing any of the other colors. And you can mix red. So, which red is a primary color, but if you actually, this is really interesting. If you look at your printer in your ink cartridges, if you have a colored printer, you'll notice that the colors that are in there are yellow, cyan, and magenta, and black. And that's because with those colors, you can pretty much mix all of the other colors, including red. So if I take magenta and grab a little bit of yellow, I'll get red.
What?
Yeah. So that's why a lot of mixing sets, like if you buy mixing painting sets, like I remember I got like a Holbein gouache color mixing sets, and it had cyan, yellow, magenta, black, and white. So, and that's why I put magenta in there instead of red, because I wanted to show you guys that. So, or maybe you want your Christmas lights to be like pink and purpled. That would be fun too. So I wanted to give you that option. Okay. Now I'm going to paint little, Keenan.
Yeah.
You're a smart guy. What is this little black part called on the candelabra bulb?
I want to say that part goes into a socket, but I don't know.
Maybe little sockets? Socket holders?
Yeah, we'll say
Socket holder. Okay.
I'll Google it.
It's not plug. Right? It's not plug.
I don't think it's a plug. It's got a name.
It's got a name. It's fine. I'm just going to paint the little socket holders. Be aware of your spacing when you're doing this. If they're not even, like perfectly evenly spaced, not the end of the world, but just kind of like watch it so it's not super, super heavy on one side and sparingly on the other. I don't know if that's the right word.
Sparingly sounds great.
Great. Thanks, Keenan.
Okay, I've got it.
What is it?
So, it's going to sound really simple. It is the base of the bulb.
Oh, the base.
But also, those are the screw threads, the insulation, and the electrical foot contact.
You know, I used to sell lights. That was my job. I worked at a lighting store.
That's incredible.
And I sold lights, so I should know what these are called.
Listen, I don't think you need to know the anatomy of a bulb to be able to sell lights. Was it light fixtures or bulbs?
Both, bulbs and fixtures.
Well, I don't think you need to know the anatomy.
I feel like I used to know it though. But I know all the terms for light fixtures. Wall sconces, ceiling mounts.
Sconces a fun
all of that stuff. What a weird job.
That's a great job.
I was a light.
The old light lady.
My business card said lighting specialist.
Oh, you had business cards?
Yeah.
What if I had had business cards when I worked at Wendy's?
That would be...
Hey, come by my Wendy's store. Do you own it? Nope.
You just have come visit me at work sometime.
I'm the cashier.
Okay. But people need lights for their houses, you know?
I know, especially older houses where they didn't used to put the lights, like fixtures in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, I'm going to start doing the light bulbs. I'm just doing kind of like a leaf shape, actually, which I do a lot.
It's very convenient because it's similar to lips.
Lips. What else?
Leaves.
Lips. An eyeball?
An eyeball.
Eyeball.
Yeah, the hardest thing you could draw.
When you're drawing a leaf, just try and draw an eyeball instead. But I am leaving a little white space for glare because these are shiny. If you don't do that, that's not a big deal. I just did it. And then we have blue. To mix green, you do blue and yellow. And to mix orange, if you want to do orange, you do yellow and red. I don't think I put orange on here though. And if you want to be efficient, you can just like follow my coloring that I have on the reference photo, and you can do all the blues at once. Yeah, there's like a formula for like how many can lights you need to have in a ceiling and all of that stuff, like spaced apart and the size of the room, like how many. I used to do that. I used to go to people's houses and be like, okay, here's the size of your room. You need to have cans 4 feet in from this and this far apart, and that will be adequate light, all of that stuff.
Well, that's awesome.
I don't think I was very good at it, if I'm being honest, but some people were really good at it.
They're like, Sarah, you sold 32 candlelights for this 10 by 10 room.
And I'm like, you can never have enough light.
It'll be perfect for all the pictures.
I think my like lackadaisical attitude wasn't super helpful for like builders.
Oh.
I'm like, that would be fine. They're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. You guys, we're almost there. We're doing great.
That's the Christmas light bulb sound. How to paint them properly with sound effects.
With the sound effect. What did I do?
I don't even know.
It kind of sounds like when they pop.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, these aren't matching up very well. That's okay. I feel like I need some orange in there.
Christmas lighting has gotten very sophisticated these days.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll add one right here. Do you put Christmas lights on the outside of your house?
We did last year.
Oh, are they still up?
No,
Oh.
not anymore. They were up for several months, though.
It's fun. It's fun when that happens. My house was never the house that had them. And we still don't have them. But I'm sure if I asked my husband, he would do it because he's a stand-up guy.
He is.
And he likes me a lot.
My house growing up was basically an old school and just a big square brick building. And for whatever reason, because it was a city hall as well before we bought it, they had a giant star that was lit up for Christmas every year.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents kept that. And they put it up every year.
Oh.
Had a timer and everything.
Wow.
When it got dark, it came up.
Okay, so there's our light bulbs, and now we're just going to do some finishing details around the eyes. Essentially, I'm going to put in the lashes, and then I'm going to blend out that white glare we left, that long white glare. I'm going to just do one swoosh over it, and now I'm lifting because it made it too dark. Essentially, I just want it to be kind of like a light gray too. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of darken these a little bit. They got a little bit washed out when I blended. Okay. All right, now the lashes. So again, pick up some black, squish your brush. You might want to practice this a little bit first, but they're not very long. And they're just kind of wisps like that. It's really hard to do this. Do not be mad at yourself if you're not quite there yet. So I'm just going to go along the top here. Oh, that made him look angry. Let's do some going this way. Let's do some bottom squinting out.
He's just having a bad hair day.
Listen, sometimes eyelashes get like crunched.
Yeah.
Mine do. They get a little funky shape. Does that happen to yours?
Yeah, he tried on a new salon. It didn't work out.
He tried to get those fake lashes.
Those on fleek lashes.
That one turned out better. Ooh, let's try it this way. And if you got to move your paper around to do it, you can. Just be careful where you're putting your hand because our light bulbs are still kind of wet. Okay. I think that's good. I'm going to darken up that a little bit more. And I can't see what your painting is like. So if there's some areas that you feel need a little bit more attention than what I'm doing on my painting, there's nothing wrong with you, you know, reacting to your own painting and changing some things depending on what your painting needs. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, that's it. That is our holiday book. Good job. If you painted this with us, I would love to see it. You can share it on Instagram, tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. On Facebook, you can use those same tags. Or if you don't want to post it to your personal account, but you want to, start sharing your work and you also want to see what other people are painting, we have a Facebook community that is dedicated just to sharing artwork. That's what it's all about. And that's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. So you can ask to join and you can see what other people are doing. It's super fun. If you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. That's it. Bye.